T.Y. Hilton is doing exactly what Jerry Jones, he has filled the Odell Beckham idea, the role of what Jerry Jones was thinking about for Odell. If Odell Beckham came in and was doing this, it would be magnified times 20 on all the first fake shows. But let's actually break it down and say that it is just as good as Odell could do, if not better. T.Y. Hilton is coming up huge, and that play right there was 3rd and 10, Bobby. The momentum had shifted. The Titans had made it 17-13 after the Robert Woods touchdown. 3rd and 10. You're in trouble. Dak escapes, uses some mobility, and gets it to T.Y. Hilton, and he picks up all that yardage in order to convert. And David Hellman had sent out a big play T.Y. stat before the game. I tried to adjust it, but I kind of lost track because he was just continuing to make plays on 3rd down. But the stat was something like Hilton has been targeted 4 times as a Cowboy, 3 3rd down conversions and a 4th down conversion, 3 catches and a defensive holding flag that he has drawn leading into this game. And I think I included the first half of this game, but that play right there was huge because the Cowboys, they stemmed off the tide a little bit. Tennessee had gotten momentum, and I believe they capitalized on that drive as well and ended up scoring. They ended up scoring. I think that was the Dalton Schultz touchdown.
Yes, that was that one. And you know what's speaking of Dalton Schultz, here's an interesting stat for you, Sean. On the season, Dalton Schultz has 4 first down conversions on 3rd down, which is as many as T.Y. Hilton has.
Wow.
T.Y. Hilton has picked up 4 first, and that's just on the receptions. That does not include the illegal contact, which was not a 3rd. That was a 4th down. But he has been...
He had a 3rd and 5 diving conversion, like towards the sideline. That eventually led to the Zeke touchdown, 9th straight game with a Zeke touchdown. He had another 3rd down catch, and then the 27 yards on 3rd and 10 that helped keep the drive alive to put the Cowboys up 24-13 and give them that breathing room.
Yeah, and on 3 of his 4 3rd down catches this year, they've then scored touchdowns on those drives. The only one that they didn't was yesterday. He had the 3rd and 3 conversion, and then 2 plays later was the snap issue between Biotish and Dag, where the ball got turned over. But you're talking about, when we talk about the type of impact that Odell Beckham could potentially have, like, did we, like even in our wildest dreams when we thought about Odell Beckham stepping on the field, weren't we talking about, like, if he can give you 1 play here and 1 play there? Like, I don't think we thought even that Odell Beckham could come in here and be like a big 3rd down conversion guy, which T.Y. Hilton last night on Twitter referring to himself as Mr. 3rd down.
Oh, I thought T.Y. was like this quiet Indianapolis humble dude.
He is, but he posted a picture of him holding up the ball and he said, "Great team win, keep getting better, hashtag Mr. 3rd down."
Cowboys came in with 1 sack in their last 3 games. They got 2 quick ones last night. Dante Fowler finally showing back up.
Yeah.
And we did need Micah to play. Like, this was not a game in which it was, and I agree with you beforehand. Rest Pollard, rest Micah. We actually needed Micah Parsons as he was a pass rushing force last night with a couple of pressures.
Yeah, I look at this as, it's
a tackle and 2 QB hits, to be exact.
We talked about how there were 0 QB hits against Philadelphia, and you had 1 sack against Jacksonville, and you had none against Houston, and it had been pretty frustrating last night, and I get it. Their Tennessee's offensive line is not great to begin with. They were running with some second-team guys for the most part. Josh Dobbs is going to take some time to get used to his pocket presence, but still, it's a little comforting to see, okay, you go out there last night, you get 10 quarterback hits. That's a little bit more comforting, and you'll take that confidence builder.
You were right about their tackle, and Laufenberg was talking about their total inexperience. Their right tackle was getting smoked, just a little bit more than our left tackle was getting smoked.
You want to talk about star up, like DeMarcus Lawrence looked like a Hall of Famer for that entire first half, essentially. And I mean, it was making big plays in the run game,
running down people,
rushing the passer, showing the motor running hot. 5 tackles, 2 pass breakups, a forced fumble. I know we had over on the YouTube, Taylor McCain had said DeMarcus Lawrence is one of his star ups, and so
YouTube is lit this morning.
Oh my gosh, it is. They're blowing up over there. They got a couple over there too. They've got Jack Renner says star up CD, star down Noah. Chris Taylor, star up T.Y. Hilton. Over on Twitch, DePope88 says star up Brett Maher.
Yes.
And his record-breaking points for the Cowboys and star down on the defense. But yeah, we got a lot of people chiming in.
With the Maher field goal, the 45-yarder, leads the NFL and a franchise record for most points in a season. And the only reason he's not a Pro Bowler, would y'all say the Seattle kicker? It was hard to argue against him.
Yeah, that guy has been like 7 of 7 from 50 and has missed 1 field goal. So it's just that guy's been a little bit better.
Star up to CeeDee Lamb, the number 1 receiver for the Dallas Cowboys. 3rd straight game that Lamb surpassed 100 yards receiving. Also secured his 100th catch of the season. The first receiver to do so here since Michael Irvin in 1995. CeeDee Lamb is unstoppable. 11 for 100. He was targeted 14 times, and the average per catch was 9.1. He had a long of 34. This guy has hit the next level.
I was sitting there. He had 89 receiving yards, I think, or 87 or something like that late. I was like, are they going to throw it enough to get him up to 100 yards? And then I thought he got it, and it was 99, and gets getting down to the last drive. And I'm like, come on, let him get his 100 yards. Let's get the, and then he picked up 1 yard to get to the 100. So that's nice to see. But he's been great. And you mentioned that 3 straight games of 100 yards. First time a Cowboys receiver's done that in 3 straight games since Terrell Owens, maybe future Cowboys receiver. Last time this happened was Terrell Owens did it in 2007.
That Dove Kleiman reporter who you love so much said, T.O. was asking for too much money, so it fell apart. So T.O., you're telling me at the age of 49 is desperate to get back into the league and then is unreasonable about his salary demand? Like, he wasn't just like, give me the minimum and let me get on a field. Like, the value of just getting on a field at the age of 49 would have made up for whatever he didn't get in a salary. But according to this guy, talks fell apart because he was asking for too much.
I'm going to screenshot Terrell Owens' comments on Instagram tomorrow or yesterday, and I'm going to use that as a meme reply now. From now on, whenever anybody shares a Dove Kleiman thing, I'm going to share the screenshot of T.O. saying Dove Kleiman needs to be fired.
See, here's CD talking about not being the biggest guy, but he can still be physical.
Man, I'm doing whatever to get positive yards, never want to really go back and just understand that. That's kind of how I play this game, always going in, understanding that I'm not your biggest receiver, but I can for sure, pack a punch.
So CeeDee Lamb continues to be the man. I'm getting a little worried. What happens when a team just decides your other's got to beat us? It's going to have to be Gallup. It's going to have to be T.Y. It's going to have to be Schultz. We're doubling 88. And he's not getting all these targets and all this production. I'm a little bit worried about that.
I think they're trying to do some of that right now. And he's still stepping up and he's making big plays. And look, Justin Jefferson gets doubled and it doesn't matter. Jamar Chase gets doubled and it doesn't matter. And that's one of the things that you've wanted to see from CD to elevate his game. Because, I've mentioned this before. Last year in Kansas City, when they found out Amari Cooper was sitting out, they were thrilled. Because I know just from talking to people over there, they looked at it as great. We know we can take CeeDee Lamb out of the game with safety help over the top, and we know that we can single up Michael Gallup and take him out of the game and we'll be fine. And so now I think that's different. I don't think people feel like you can just take CeeDee Lamb out of the game by putting help over the top. And he and Dak, their chemistry is so strong.
Yes.
And I said this, I emailed this to you last night when we were just kind of sharing thoughts about the game. And I've said this a little bit recently that this team, if you want to win a Super Bowl here in Dallas, this team this year will go as far as that connection will take them. Dak to CD is the key for them to win a Super Bowl this year. That's where they can be elite, and that's where they can make things really difficult on opposing teams.
Also, star up to the Titans drops. They did not do Dobbs any favor. Robert Woods dropped a big 3rd down early on, and Burks had one as well against Diggs. As Diggs had gotten left, and Burks had a drop, Woods had a big drop on 3rd down that killed off their drives. I have Tyler Smith with a star down. Nashawn Wright was bad. I don't care that he got the interception. He is a liability, and he is a problem. And Kelvin Joseph still can't get off the bench. Oh, unless it's for special teams where he commits a penalty. Poor.
Had 2 penalties on special teams. That now gives him a league-leading 6 special teams penalties this year. 6 penalties on special teams.
What is the record for special teams penalties?
I don't know. I'm going to have to, now you're going to make me go deep dive and figure it out. But 6 special teams penalties this year, and it's gotten to a point with Kelvin Joseph where
he got destroyed. That's the one thing that unified everyone late last night.
Unite the cleanse.
Get him out of here. Get him out of here. People are done.
It's getting to a point where he serves no purpose on this roster at all. Like, if you're not even going to contribute on special teams, which if that's all you're doing, if that's all that you're doing as a second-round pick, that's concerning to begin with. But that one's as I said last night, that one is so frustrating because it was so easily avoidable. Like, they knew all the risks with him. Like outside of just his play, they knew all the risks with him off the field, the risks of him in the locker room, his football character. They were well aware of all that, and they just said, we can fix him. We can fix him. And they haven't been able to. And that's the frustrating aspect about that one is it feels like you could have avoided that one. But
what's up with Tyler? He whiffed on a couple. He was the offensive lineman that ended up getting Dak hit with that scary right leg issue.
He had those couple snaps that were bad. I didn't get a great chance. And obviously after Biotish went out, everybody kind of slid down the line a little bit. McGovern went to center. Tyler Smith went to guard. Jason Peters came in at left tackle. I'm going to have to see. I'm going to have to go back and watch. I don't think he was as bad as he like his moments that stand out are. But he's a guy that has played really well lately, and Broadus was praising him at halftime for saving the touchdown on the Byard interception, the one that was thrown to Schultz. Broadus is like, if Tyler Smith doesn't hustle and get that, like, Byard may score.
How bad is the Biotish injury?
So that's interesting. It looked really bad. He was in a boot. He had his, it was a boot. They're talking about sprained ankle is what it sounds like the report is. But Dak seemed to say in his press conference last night, stopped himself and said, basically almost made it sound like, he sounded a little more optimistic than I think y'all think, so I'm not going to talk about it then. And so it sounded like they feel like they may have dodged a bullet. He may be out for a few weeks if it's a sprained ankle, but it sounds like it may not be a season-ending thing.
Reginald, would you like to start?
I would like to start.
Okay, good.
I would like to thank Nashawn Wright.
Ooh.
For giving the cornerback room a little bit of hope. Yeah. Obviously, you lost 2 starters in Jordan Lewis, Anthony Brown. I mean, one of those widely beloved by the fan base. The other one is Anthony Brown.
He's widely beloved by you.
I
listen to the Get Right.
I feel like I got to show up for the other corner. I feel like the other corner is always going to get bombed on.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I'm just like, look here. We got to understand what it is. However, when the other corner became other people, like a certain person who wears number 1, it was problematic. And I did the thing where, I believed in the organization and the people that work in football. And I was like, look, man, if Kelvin Joseph looked like this, there's a reason why he's ahead of Nashawn Wright. And now I'm starting to question that because Nashawn Wright looks like he's been better than Kelvin Joseph the whole time.
No question about that. Do you feel like at all that the injuries have kind of made us feel better about depth? Like,
yes, the Cowboys have been talking about this depth for the whole time, haven't they?
Yeah, and it made me feel better about their depth at offensive line and cornerback. Now, I realize it might not feel that way because some of those people are not magically coming back. Like, it would be different if Terrence Steele was coming back. It would be different if Jordan Lewis and Anthony Brown were coming back. I'm just saying, like, if you look at it and you're like, man, so we would have had Deron Bland, now Nashawn Wright. Obviously, you have Diggs. You would have had Lewis. You would have had Brown. Like, that's a heck of a 5 cornerbacks in a league where, like, it is hard to find quality spots.
Absolutely.
And it's the same thing there as, like, we've talked about this many times. It's not just getting to 12-4. But if I would have told you that Tyron Smith would have missed most of the season, you'd have been like, oh my gosh, I bet our offensive line is in shambles. And then you're like, you know what? Spot here and there. Jason Peters can get the job done. Terrence Steele, he can get the job done. Tyler Smith, he can get the job done. Tyler Biotish. Like, who would have thought at the beginning of the year that Tyler Biotish getting hurt would have been like a, oh crap, situation? So
we love Tyler.
I think you have learned along the way that this team has some depth at some key positions, at least in this season. I know there's contracts that come into play and everything like that after that.
Yeah, and I think Deshaun Wright is in some ways evidence of that. I know someone said we like Bland. He's still on the field. He ain't going nowhere. Like he's
your second. Yeah.
He's held that, what is that, nickel corner?
Yes.
Is that what we're talking about? He's held that.
They've shifted him around.
Yeah, he's held that spot down since the moment that Jordan Lewis left the field. Like, he has been interior. The problem was that you had to move. And also, I guess we should shout out Mackenzie Alexander as well, who stepped into that nickel spot when you had Deron Bland outside.
Yes. No, I think you're right. By the way, I really appreciate that people jumping in and like, yes, I have similar commercial thoughts to you, and they didn't hate our singing as much. I'm going to shout out Donovan Wilson. Donovan Wilson has 5 sacks this season, tied with Bill Bates for the most sacks by a Cowboys safety since they started keeping the individual statistics in 1982.
Is that good?
Yes! Okay. That is very good. And sticking with the realm of the defense, shout out to Micah Parsons for playing with a club hand and still recovering a fumble.
Yeah, I thought that was fascinating.
Were you more impressed by that or the play
where he just ran off?
When it didn't look like he was going to be on the play, and they're like, "Oh yeah, there's Micah Parsons on the sideline." And the next thing you know, Micah Parsons with the tackle.
Yeah, that was insane. I found that I was like, was that intentional or did he just not know that he was supposed to be on the field? Because I mean, as someone who played in middle school and high school, like I get that sometimes that's not high praise. Please don't. Nope, that's not what I was trying to do. Just pointing to the fact that I've been on a football field before. Especially at those levels, you call, hey man, kickoff, get on the field. There, you'll very often find a time where one of them folks is supposed to be on the field, did not realize, and then very late, it's like, aren't you on the kickoff team? It's like, oh man, my bad, and I have to run on the field.
Yes.
Micah Parsons should never be in that situation because I feel like of all the people that know, your first team defense, Micah's one of those. So I'm like, was that intentional? Was that kind of a play to get like a different view of them being like, all right, this is the defensive line. Oh wait, where did Micah Parsons come from? Why is he here now? Like, was that the attempts there?
Yeah.
No? Okay.
I'm not sure, but I thought it was terribly impressive either way.
512 here is right, man, on the text line. Let's thank Money Maher for giving my bathroom break back before the commercial. I don't understand what you mean there, but
I think great. I do.
What?
I think they're just saying, you can leave the room because it's good. Hence, Money Maher. I believe that was my interpretation of that.
Leading point scorer in the league.
Yes. All right. I'm glad that you brought that up.
That's why I did it.
It is also a franchise record at 137 points. So most points ever scored in Cowboys history, and right now leads the league. So he has been fantastic.
And what makes it more amazing is that 2 years ago you had him on your team and they wanted to tar and feather that man.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No, I'm definitely with you on there. On that. And so if we're talking about expectations versus performance, I feel like Brett Maher is way, way, way high up on that list. And I also want to say thank you to the Cowboys defense in a more general sense. Is Tennessee had scored a first half touchdown in a team record 17 straight games. But not yesterday. I realize for some people this might not have been the game they wanted because there are some people who are like, do you know how many shutouts there's been? And they're like, when's the last time there was a shutout? How many shutouts? And like, so I know there was a lot of people who are hoping and maybe even anticipating a shutout, and you did not get that. But I did want to shout out the Cowboys defense for ending the team record streak of first half touchdowns for the Tennessee Titans.
Should we shout out CeeDee Lamb for like making us feel great about the wide receiver one? Like he's there
for sure.
And you know, when we were talking to Mickey earlier and he was breaking down one of those touchdown plays to Dalton Schultz, the play in which Dalton Schultz said that the intended receiver was CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
But they doubled him. And I thought, that's wide receiver one situations, right? The thing that I've talked about a lot this year on the Get Right with KG, that's not the name. Well, I guess that could be the name of the show. The Get Right with KG.
I'd listen to that.
I would too. In fact, I do often. But I was talking to KG, and it's like, with a wide receiver one, the way that I view it is that is a player that bends the defense, that makes the defense, account for certain things. And that is exactly what you have there. You have them accounting so much for CeeDee Lamb that they put a smaller safety on Dalton Schultz and give him an advantage that allows him to score a touchdown. That's the impact that you were hoping to see, and happens towards the end of the season, but you've seen him exist in that space, and I'm very happy to see it. So thanks, CD.
So we're through 16 games, and so this would be, for the longest time, the logical stopping point to the season.
Mm-hmm.
How do we feel about this stat line? Like, let's say you could go all the way back. I tell you, CeeDee Lamb will have 102 catches for 1,300 yards and 8 touchdowns.
Love it. Sign me up.
I mean, if you want to bump up the touchdowns 2 more, sure. I get it.
For sure.
I get it. But that's a number one performance right there. He's the first Cowboys wide receiver. I know Jason Witten did it, so I'm not trying to leave him out, but obviously he was a tight end. First Cowboys wide receiver to have 100 catches in a season since Michael Irvin in 1995.
I think he was good.
Yeah. Yes.
I know it's controversial.
Michael
I know
Irvin?
it took you by surprise, but I think he was good at football.
I have to admit, I was not surprised to hear. I was definitely surprised to hear you say, I think Michael Irvin was good at football.
Yep.
I just didn't anticipate that was going to be the route that we would go.
I don't know.
But
Sometimes you just got to say it.
I do want to shout out the Cowboys for this as well. Now, hear me out on this, okay? So I decided to look through the entirety of Dallas Cowboys football history.
Ooh, that took a long time.
It did. Here are the times that they've won 12 or more games in back-to-back seasons. 77, 78,
Okay.
80, 81, and 92 through 95.
Okay, there's some interesting dates in there, some
And that's it.
correlations.
Yes, there are some correlations. I'm going to get to that in just 1 second, but that's it. So depending on how you break up if you say it's 92, 93, then 93, 94 counts as well. But like, it hasn't happened a lot, and it's been 27 years since you've got to that point. But to the best of times, worst of times scenario, what are the timestamps that go along with that? All right, 77 and 78. The first time you did it, you won a Super Bowl and you lost a Super Bowl. All right, so you did it twice and made it to 2 Super Bowls.
Sounds good.
80 and 81, you made it to 2 NFC Championship games.
I think those are both things that this
Exactly.
fan base loves. Yeah.
I realized they lost both of those. And then 92, 95 through 95, you won 3 Super Bowls and made it to an NFC Championship game. My point being, all 3 of the other times it happened, those combined 8 seasons, every single time you made it to at least the NFC Championship game.
Are you saying something here?
Well, it's hard to say that.
I'm hearing that Kevin Hagelin is predicting a Cowboys NFC Championship berth. Fantastic. Thank you, Kevin.
I want to do that, but history cuts both ways,
Okay.
right? Because on the one hand, I'll say every time they've ever gone back-to-back, they've made it to the NFC Championship game. But then on the flip side, wouldn't you point out that all the years they made it to at least the NFC Championship game, and they didn't do that last year? So, but like, doesn't that speak to Cowboys fandom right there? It's been 27 years since they have accomplished this feat of back-to-back 12-win seasons. That should be celebrated. But every other time they've done it in succession, they've made it to at least the NFC Championship game. Every single time. All 8, except for now.
Well, I think some of that is also, like, if you win 12 games in multiple seasons, that means you've built a nice, good roster.
Sure.
It's not any level fluke or whatever. You've built something substantial. There's a foundation there. And if you have something that substantial, usually you could take that and turn it into playoff success. But again, the 27-year and then last season, I think, are just really going to weigh on folks until they see it.
Okay, from the 2-1-4, I think a lot of people would accept this. Not like you would obviously rather win, but we will make it to the championship and we will lose to San Francisco. If you make it to the NFC Championship game and you lose, I think we can live with it in terms of a sign of progress. And this person is right from the 2-5-4, is they used to play less games. I'm not even talking 16, but like to the point where you had 14.
Right.
Everybody knows that the mid-60s through the Cowboys 70s, the 70s of the Cowboys, is one of the greatest runs of football in the history of football existing. I don't mean to diminish that whatsoever. I'm just saying how rare it is that they have done this. But I get all
this
the
doesn't have to be this accomplishment that has been made by the Cowboys doesn't have to be an exact equivalent to those 60s and 70s teams, but to be in a similar stratosphere, at least when it comes to winning games in the regular season. I think that matters. And I think that should give some level of hope that this team has built something nice. I mean, at the very least, I keep looking at this year's team and going, this was better than last year's team. This team is better than last year's team.
Yes, I believe that 100%. I do really like this text. I know it's taking a step back. Yeah, and they just gave Michael Irvin a random gold jacket because he had 100 catches. So, to your point, he was very good at football. From the 214, how about thank you note for Zeke and his touchdown streak? Yes, I have some context about that I think makes it even more impressive. So Ezekiel Elliott has now scored a rushing touchdown, in 9 straight games. How many times since the year 2000 do you think somebody has had a streak that long? Like, do you think it's a frequent once-a-year occurrence? Do we think once a decade? 9 consecutive games with a rushing touchdown.
I'm going to say a couple years.
Okay. It's happened 5 times since 2000.
So that's once every 3-4 years?
Yeah, closer to like 4.
Okay.
But yeah. All right. Now we're going to take it one step further. How many of these 4 running backs can you name that have at least 9 straight games with a rushing touchdown since 2000?
I'm going to embarrass myself. Well, I can name one.
Okay.
Because he's Ezekiel Elliott.
Okay. Of the other 4,
that's not what you said.
As you've bested me once again.
Did it.
That is not Zeke. Zeke is the 5th. Of the other 4, how many can you name?
All right. So from the 214, they say Terrell Davis was one.
Would you like to stick with that?
I would like to stick with that.
That is incorrect. You should not have put your trust in that person.
Well, I don't trust me either. All right, so LaDainian Tomlinson has been
correct.
Good job, 214.
2004, he had 12 straight games with a rushing touchdown. That is the most this century.
He's so good at football.
He is so
and
good.
still the second best LT in NFL
wow.
history. Tell me I'm wrong.
No, you're not wrong.
All right, that's what I thought.
That's fair.
CJ2K, Chris Johnson.
That is incorrect.
Shout out to you.
Well, I think you're thinking in the right vein of running backs that if you weren't there for that stretch of time, you don't know how great they were for 3 to 4 years.
Let's see. Don't worry, 214. I'm just here to be a mouthpiece for the people because, again, I don't believe in myself. Let's see.
Ooh, I saw at least one correct answer on the fan text.
Jamal Lewis?
Jamal Lewis was not that correct answer.
Woo!
The correct
answer's wrong.
The correct answer I saw was Priest Holmes. In 2002,
I love
Priest Holmes. I'd see, but you know what I'm talking about, right? Like if you weren't there for that moment
guys
in time,
that you can very easily get lost to history, but we're absolutely like, oh man, Priest Holmes is going to be one of those dudes that I'm going to be the old guy that kids are going to be like, I'm sick of this old guy always talking about Priest Holmes.
There's another person on this list that I think fits that bill. But back in 2002, and remember, this isn't a single season. Back in 2002, Priest Holmes ran for a rushing touchdown, which makes sense, in 11 straight games.
Sean Alexander
in 2005 did it 9 straight times. But you get my point, right, about Priest Holmes and Sean Alexander. I know LaDainian Tomlinson will carry on and on and on.
Absolutely.
And then the other one who did it, this was just last year, Jonathan Taylor. Did it in 11 straight games. But my point is, it's only happened 5 times in this century that someone has had a consecutive game streak of 9 or more for rushing touchdowns. So absolutely, thank you note to Ezekiel Elliott as well.
Bobby, was the 2 touchdown wins satisfactory for you, or did you need more?
No, I mean, you just want to come out of the game with a victory, like however it may be. Now, I do understand, the frustration of there have been several years in the past where they start playing a little more sloppy December football, and then it usually, bleeds over into the playoffs. And so I get why people are frustrated because they've got this, sort of innate fear that, okay, here we go again. This is going to be another team that disappoints just by the way that they're playing heading into the playoffs. So I understand all of that. But I mean, this is that's a tired football team. They're banged up. It was the second consecutive game on short rest. Actually, if you want to give them a ton of credit for something, they're 4-0 in games with short rest this year. They've been really good in that, and they've powered through with that. But man, I think you'll take the victory however you want. The biggest thing you wanted to come out of there with was a victory, obviously. But outside of that, it's just you didn't want any injuries, and you didn't want to see just Dak completely regressing and throwing 5 picks where he just doesn't see defenders. That would have been a concerning thing we could have taken out of it. But otherwise, I think you're just saying, let's get the victory. not worry about how it looked and get home and hopefully have a chance to fight for the NFC East next Sunday.
It's our Cowboy insider Bobby Belt with us here in the GBag Nation. We're broadcasting live from Rally House in Fort Worth, the Hewlin location, here till 7 o'clock. We'd love to see you. What's going on with this rushing attack here offensively, Bob?
It's just not very good, especially on early down situations. They love running the ball on first down right now, more than any team in the NFL, and it's not been very effective, and it's putting them in some bad spots, and it's setting up these third and longs and some of these issues, and so Tennessee is not the team to try and establish your dominance or establish some sort of physicality against. That's just not the team to do it against, and they even Kirk Herbstreit referenced it in the first quarter yesterday that. Kellen Moore was telling me they basically said that Kellen Moore had essentially said this is a team they know they're not going to be able to probably run effectively against, but they got to, keep plugging away so that they can use the play action game and take advantage of a team in the middle of the field that's very vulnerable. And I don't understand the logic to thinking of let's really play into their strength so that then we can take care of their vulnerability. Like we'll be able to take advantage of that by showing them how ineffective we are against their strengths. But that was apparently the approach last night. And, I think we see 19 carries on first down yesterday for 33 yards. And that kind of is in sync with how ineffective they've been in recent weeks. It's frustrating. It makes you wonder why they just continue to run into that brick wall and not really change it up.
Bobby, with this offensive line, and I probably needed to do this before I asked this question, anything on Matt Farniak, or is this a situation where was he kind of like in that James Washington mode where they were holding him, kind of waiting for an opportunity, and are we going to see him anytime soon, or are they just going to go ahead for at least for this game with McGovern being your starter at center?
I think they probably roll with McGovern for this game. That's obviously we're 10 days out. Things can all, change and they can look ahead. I think they're just happy to take a breather today. But, they really like Farniak. That's a guy that really won them over at his pro day in Nebraska. They were, fans of his tape. And then when they saw him test and work out and everything, I think they felt really sold that he was somebody who could provide flexibility. I think they believe he can play, if needed, all 5 positions on the offensive line. They think that's within him. And so they like his flexibility. They like his smarts. They like his athleticism. And so even if it's not, this week, or this upcoming week here in about 10 days, that's somebody who I think will be in that sort of rotation in the future when these sorts of things happen. I would just guess that for this week right here, you'd be looking at Connor McGovern playing center.
Bobby Belt with us here on 105.3 The Fan. Bobby, brought to you by the on-time experts here in the GBag Nation. Now, as far as the injuries go with Biotish and a couple other guys got banged up in the game, anything you can share with us? I know we talked with Steven earlier, and he wasn't expecting that Biotish would be long-term. Hopefully he's coming back for the playoffs.
Yeah, it was funny last night when the Biotish question came up to Dak in his press conference. He answered it weird. Like it was almost like, he was indicating to everybody, y'all are overreacting to this, but I guess I better shut up if y'all think it's as bad as you do. And so there was already a sense that they may have dodged a bullet, I think, coming into today. And then, you hear the way Steven talks about it, Mike McCarthy. I do think that Biotish it's not nearly as bad as it could have been. Now we'll see how, sprained ankles respond. Those can always be a little tricky. The window there can, vary by about 2 to 3 weeks, depending on how bad it is and how guys respond to it. And so, but if he's ultimately, McCarthy said he'll start rehabbing it tomorrow. So that's good news. I would guess that he should be back for the playoffs, just as Steven kind of indicated. And so, a couple other guys got banged up in that game. Jaron Kearse, Shan Wright. Shan Wright played almost the entire game hurt. He got hurt in the first quarter. I think he went down in the second another time. Then he came off the field at one point in the third. And so he was pretty banged up. Kearse, it was, another week where he's kind of banged up. But it's that point of the season where everybody's just a little banged up. And I think you're going to see, this guy came off the field for a couple plays, and then he comes back, and he's, on the injury report is limited for, 3 straight weeks. And I think it's just the time of year that we're at. Biotish, I think, is just the most significant one. And then obviously, it sounds like everything's good, but obviously you see the, Dak kind of lock up and grab at his knee, and that's concerning in and of itself. But, looked like you dodged a bullet there.
Looks like this T.Y. Hilton signing couldn't have gone any better. Like, he's surpassing expectations, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's converted as many third down pass targets this year as Dalton Schultz has. They both have 4. And so T.Y. Hilton, I mean, coming in and just being a guy that clearly Dak already has a lot of trust in, and Kellen Moore already has a lot of trust in, and, how they're willing to use him and how they're willing to lean on him in critical situations. I think that speaks to the trust they have in, his veteran presence, his veteran IQ, but also just the freshness in his legs and his ability, I think, to play more than you'd expect for somebody that just jumps into December. Brian talked about this with a few guys. So, like, I know we were referencing this a couple weeks ago, that there are a lot of guys who just don't want to do training camp. Like, if they're unsigned, don't do training camp. I don't want to do the first 2 weeks of the season. I don't want to go through the whole grind. I'll catch on when I'm ready. And I think T.Y. Hilton was definitely part of that. And he looks fresh, and he's been telling us for a couple weeks now, like, I can run all day. Like, I can go as long as I need to. I can cram in as much as I need to in these next 8 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks. And I think you're seeing the benefits of that. But obviously, I mean, I think if we would have gotten this kind of production out of Odell Beckham, if they had signed him, we would have all been thrilled. Like, this is exactly what you wanted from him. And the fact that you're getting out of T.Y. Hilton, I think, is really big for them.
Anything else before we let you boogie on out of here, Bob?
Just that I love you all.
Love you more. And any New Year's resolutions, or are you not a believer?
He's gone.
I don't do New Year's resolutions.
Not me either.
New Year's resolutions do you.
Yep, exactly.
Did you have a favorite moment from the year?
Yeah, when you were somberly reading off an obituary and you said he was the epitome of a Hall of Famer.
That was a good one.
That's a great mic drop moment, Bob. Happy Friday. Happy New Year.
There he goes, the bleep hole himself, Bobby Bells, in true troll fashion.